Georgia's quest for a three-peat fell just short in 2023, but that's not going to keep the Dogs down. Carnaby Smart squad is still a national title favorite heading into this season. They are arguably the best team in the SEC this season, and after just missing out last year, they will return to the college football playoff in 2024. The only question we have to ask ourselves is what seed will they be? So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Georgia Bulldogs, their schedule, their record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. We have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. We will make it 7 by the end of this year. We can guarantee you that. So if you want to win big and you want to do it for one of the lowest prices in the country, this is the place for you. Go sign up for that today because the season's about to be here in just a few weeks. So don't miss out. Don't miss out on our newsletters either. Also over on thegridironexpert.com, everything there for you to become a member of our GE Nation. So Georgia, guys, I mean, they are, I guess, the new Alabama in a way, right? I mean, they were really on pace with Alabama. The Crimson Tide were always a perennial title contender under Nick Saban. You always expected them to be, national title favorites to begin the year. Georgia has now kind of assumed that role. They were already starting to assume that role even with Nick Saban at the helm, now even more so. They are the kings of the SEC. They are the top dog in the SEC, even with the addition of guys like Texas and Oklahoma. This is a dangerous, dangerous team, guys, that's out for revenge. After missing out on a chance for a three-peat last season. Take a look at the offense for the Bulldogs. I mean, they're going to be electric this season. Average over 40 points per game in 2023. Have a chance to be even better this year. What amazed me last year was, you think of Georgia a lot as a team that wants to run the ball. I mean, they've been pretty balanced over the years under Carnaby Smart, but establishing dominance at the line of scrimmage was always something they tended to do. They did that last year, but they had a great passing attack. Carson Beck averaged over 300 passing yards per game, threw for over 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. Returns as one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, but in the entire country this year. They're loaded with weapons around him. Yes, they lose the star Brock Bowers. That's a huge blow, but they've got Dominic Lovett, who had over 600 yards last year. Colby Young transfers in from Miami, and he's got a dang good running back at his disposal. Trevor Etienne transferring from Florida. Loyalty or bitterness towards your rivals means nothing in the age of the transfer portal. Etienne transferring from Florida to Georgia, going to be one of the best running backs in this conference, running behind one of the best offensive lines, not just in this conference, but in the country. They only gave up 13 sacks last year and are loaded up front once again. Defense, come on. It's Carnaby Smart. Of course they're going to be good. They allowed just 15.6 points per game last season, only 289 yards per game last season, only 175 passing yards per game. So one of the best secondaries in the nation. Secondary this year, once again, loaded. You got Malachi Starks back there. You got Dalen Everett back there. The defensive line, led by Nazir Stackhouse. I mean, you got to talk about him. I don't think enough people are talking about him and this Georgia defensive line. Stackhouse is going to be the anchor there. The linebacking core has Smail Mondin and Jalen Walker, who had 5 sacks last year. All 3 levels, Georgia is loaded defensively. Wouldn't expect anything less. The Bulldogs have all the talent and the coaching to make a run back to a national championship. But the kicker for the Bulldogs this season is their schedule is a lot tougher than it's been in years past. You look at Georgia, they benefited, and look, they were going to be good. You put them in the West, they still would have won the West many, many times and would have won national championships. I'm not saying they were only good because they were in the East, but they benefited from a very, very weaker SEC East division. Now the SEC does not have divisions. So now look at the schedule. They have to go on the road to Alabama, on the road to Texas, on the road to Ole Miss. Very tough games there, all on the road. Interesting fact about Georgia here. Since Carnaby Smart took over back in 2016, the Bulldogs have only played 11 true road games. Remember that, true road games against top 25 opponents. Only 11. And they're 7-4 in those games. They've only played 5 true road games against top 15 opponents. And they are 2-3 in those games. So they have benefited from playing their top, the biggest competitors either at a neutral site or in Athens. They haven't had to face many elite teams on the road at their house. And there's a chance that now they face 5 top 15 road teams since Carnaby Smart took over. They might have to face 3 in one season. But they open up the year against Clemson. In Atlanta. This might be a low-scoring game, but it's one that Georgia will win. I believe the Bulldogs are better on every aspect of this game. They've got the better offense. Clemson wildly inconsistent offensively last year. The Tigers they're my pick. They are my pick to win the ACC, but nowhere near to the point of beating Georgia this season. Still have a lot of things they got to figure out, especially with Cade Klubnik. The defense is going to be very, very strong, but if their offense can't sustain drives, they will get worn down by this Georgia offense. So the Bulldogs win against a top 25 opponent against Clemson, but that game, of course, at a neutral site. They beat Tennessee Tech, of course, and they beat Kentucky. They have won the last 8 in Lexington. Last 8 against the Wildcats. Only won by 10 last time here, 16-6 just 2 years ago. But they beat the Wildcats 51-13 last year. I would expect this game to be around a 10 to 14 point margin of victory, if not larger, for the Bulldogs. Kentucky's got a solid squad, but nowhere near to beat Kirby Smart. They're 3-0. Then there's the big one. To wrap up the month of September, we've got the road game at Alabama, the rematch of last year's SEC championship game, the game that kept Georgia out of the college football playoff, the game that prevented them from maybe getting a three-peat. Alabama pulled off the upset in Atlanta. They went to the college football playoff to face Michigan. Georgia had to stay home. But obviously now Nick Saban's gone. That doesn't mean Alabama's going to completely fall off, but that changes a lot of things. Who's got the coaching edge in this game? It's absolutely Kirby Smart, no doubt about it. As great of a coach as Kalen DeBoer is, Kirby Smart's got that edge there. Alabama is no pushover here. Jalen Milroe still a fantastic quarterback. The offense, I think, will thrive. The defense is still very, very strong, but has questions in the secondary, and that does concern me going up against a very strong quarterback in Carson Beck. So I look at this game. I argue that Georgia has the better defense. I definitely agree that Georgia has the better coaching. And offensively, you could pick your poison, but you could argue that Georgia owns that edge too. You could argue that even though it might be slim, Georgia owns the edge in every aspect of this game with the exception of home field advantage. And I believe that the Bulldogs can overcome that. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. But I believe the Bulldogs, as Alabama is still trying to figure things out under their new head coach for the first time since 2007, they fall to the Bulldogs. And Georgia, of course, factoring in that revenge factor, they get the win here. So they're 4-0. They will beat Auburn. They will beat Mississippi State, make them 6-0. They're going bowling, as if that was ever a concern. Auburn, last year's game was close. They had to score a game-winning touchdown with a little under 3 minutes left to survive the scare against the Tigers. It will not be that close this year, as the Tigers are still trying to establish their identity in year 2 under Hugh Freeze. They will cruise past Mississippi State. That won't even be close to a contest in year 1 under Jeff Lebby. And then there is big game number 2. Really, to me, the season does come down to Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. Those 3 games will determine Georgia's fate for this season, where they're seeded, whether they make the SEC championship. Any question you may have about the ultimate goal, it'll be decided in those 3 road games. They've already gotten past 1. Now to Texas. Texas, their first year in the SEC. Welcome to the league. Your reward is getting to host Georgia, who is the top dog in the SEC. Can the Longhorns pull off the upset? Maybe the Longhorns are even slightly favored in this game. Wouldn't be shocked to see that. Bottom line is, I don't think Texas can do it. I think the Longhorns fall short in Austin. It's going to be another great game. Carson Beck versus Quinn Ewers, 2 of the best quarterbacks, not just in this conference, but in the entire country. You've got Steve Sarkisian's offense, his great offensive mind, versus Kirby Smart and his defense, the great defensive mind. It's truly going to be a chess match between these 2 programs and what could easily be a top 5 matchup. But I look at this game a little bit closer. Texas' secondary will improve, but that secondary gave over 250 passing yards per game last year. I think they get exploited by Carson Beck and this Georgia offense. Secondly, this to me is a more high-pressure game for Texas than it is for Georgia. Georgia knows what's up. We've been in the SEC. We run this show. This is more of a statement game for the Longhorns to say, hey, we belong here and we can beat the top dogs. Yeah, they beat Alabama last year. It wasn't a conference game. So it's more of a high-pressure situation to say, hey, can they take down the top dog at their house in Austin? Can they do it in their first year in the conference? I don't think they can. High-stakes game for both. More high stakes for Texas. The Longhorns fall just short. Georgia, undefeated, heading into their second bye week. They will cruise past Florida in the Trevor Etienne reunion game, going for their 4th straight win over the Gators, who face the nation's toughest schedule this season. They'll be starting to get worn down, especially in the month of November. They will beat Florida, who I think will be seeing the last year under Billy Napier. Then the road game, Ole Miss, big game number 3. Can they get past the Rebels? No. They fall to Ole Miss. Bottom line, guys, here's the thing. Georgia's losing one of those road games we just mentioned. They're losing to Alabama, Texas, or Ole Miss. They're losing to one of them. So if you don't like the Ole Miss pick, fine. Pick them to lose to Bama. Pick them to lose to Texas. They're losing one of them. I think it comes in Oxford, though. Again, another chess match here. Lane Kiffin, the offensive mind, versus Kirby Smart, the defensive mind. And I like this Ole Miss team a lot. The offense, I would argue, is better than that of Georgia's. They've got a veteran QB in Jackson Dart. They've got a great running back core. Ulysses Bentley and Rashad Amos, who rushed for over 1,000 yards at Miami, Ohio. They've got arguably the best wide receiver core in the SEC this year, and their defense is severely underrated. Yes, they got torched against Georgia last year, late in the year in Athens. I am well aware of that. It's a different season, though, guys. It's a different year. And they've got home field advantage on their side. Oxford will be rocking for this game as Ole Miss is trying to desperately get over the hump to finally win the big game under Lane Kiffin and get into the college football playoff, which they have a very good chance of doing now that it has expanded to 12 teams. Give me Georgia to fall in Oxford to this Ole Miss offense. I truly believe they get the job done here. And Georgia takes their first loss of the year before really getting angry and winning their final three in, I think, dominant fashion. Final three games are at home. They will cruise past Tennessee. They've won 7 straight against the Volunteers, and the Tennessee secondary, not all that great. Carson Beck has himself a day. Obviously will destroy UMass, and I think they destroy Georgia Tech. Despite the Yellow Jackets giving the Bulldogs a fight last year, only losing 31-23 at home on senior day, Georgia gets the job done, making one last good impression on the committee before the SEC championship game, which they will be in. They are 11-1 with one conference loss. They will be in the SEC championship game, which means they win. They're going to get a first-round bye in the playoff. If they lose, they're probably going to be the 5 seed. Either way, Georgia, as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, will return to the college football playoff. Regardless of where they're seated, they will be a favorite to win the whole dang thing. This is one of the best teams in the country. I think they're the best team in the SEC. They're going to slip up somewhere. That happens. Again, only 5 true road games against top 15 opponents under Kirby Smart. That's ridiculous. Compare that to a team in the West. Compare that to a team in the Big Ten East. That doesn't happen over that long of a period of time. They haven't experienced a schedule like this ever under Kirby Smart. They're bound to slip up once. It's going to happen, I think, at Ole Miss. You pick your poison in one of those 3 games. Doesn't matter. 11-1, regardless of where they slip up for the Bulldogs. But at the end of the day, it won't matter if they're lifting up that championship trophy by season's end. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks. Also, our weekly newsletters as well. Everything there for you to become a member of our GE Nation. Again, over on thegridironexpert.com. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.